Today's class is creative core, and there's going to be a little specializing on shoulders, rehab for shoulders, or alternatives you can do for your shoulders during the normal exercises. I have a strap and I have a block. You could use anything for a block, from a small pillow to a bolster, to a book, and of course a strap. You could use a belt just as well. Okay, so a little jargon. We have neutral, where the palms are facing the torso. We have external rotation, where the palms are facing forward. This is usually what we're going to go for in our exercises. And then we have internal rotation, where the palms are facing to the back plane. Okay. This little movement we do in the beginning of class so often, where we go inhale, stretch the arms up. So go ahead and try that, and exhale, hands to your sides. Now, if that doesn't work, right, because it causes pain, you just go inhale, exhale. Inhale. Now work on broadening the shoulders as you do that. Exhale, like you're trying to widen your collarbones. Turn your palms face up, but only go that high. Exhale. And this exercise is a great exercise for the shoulder blades. Exhale. So my palms turn face down. Then I turn them up, and I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together, and then I turn them down, and I'm pushing down, like I'm pushing with resistance. Inhale. And exhale. Notice I'm only going to about halfway between my hips and my shoulders. So no strain at all, but I'm internally and externally rotating. Okay, the next thing would be to bend the elbows and bring your hands to shoulder height, and then push back down. Turn your palms up, bend your elbows, and push back down. Do this with control. Keep the tops of the shoulders down, the back of the neck long, right? Palms up, bend the elbows like I'm asking why, and then back down. And one more time, palms up, bend the elbows, up just above the shoulders, palms down, and back down. Okay, so that's a great alternative to this, which is not that accessible for a lot of people, okay, with shoulder issues. Now, adding the bowing forward, we go palms turn out, raise the arms, bow forward. Let the arms hang. Inhale, look up. Exhale, bow. It's good to let the shoulders hang there. It's good for them. And then inhale, come up, bend your elbows, hands just to shoulders. Exhale, hands to your sides. Inhale, elbows bend. Exhale, bow. Inhale, look up. Exhale to bow. Inhale, come up. And again, elbows to your sides, palms face up. Exhale, so do that one more time. Inhale. Exhale, like I'm pushing down through the water. Inhale, look halfway up. Exhale to bow. And then inhale, elbows close to my sides, palms face up, palms down, exhale. Okay? Take your block. Anything that is about the width of your torso is going to work, or I should say like the width of my collarbone. So my block is fitting right between my shoulders there. And then I can hug it. My block's actually a little bit small for me, so you could find something a little bigger. Okay, I'm hugging it, and my elbows are close to my sides. They're not out here. Close in, and I'm just going pressing out and back in. Yeah, pushing straight out and back in. I'm hugging that block nicely, and I'm hugging it with the palm of my hands. My fingertips are just reaching long, thumbs and fingers together, so I'm not grabbing the block. I'm just hugging it, and I'm going straight out and straight back. So much of shoulder work is being mindful about what your shoulders are doing, right? So are they staying down, the very top of the shoulders? Is my neck long? Are my shoulder blades still hugging onto my back? Maybe I feel little clicks and funny resistance, little noises. See if you can just hug them on. And if there are any clicks, they're probably okay. It shouldn't hurt, right? But just work. Can you get your elbows totally straight when they're out in front of you? A lot of people can't, especially if the block is too narrow. So then you need something a little bit wider, okay? And reaching out. So that's very simple. Now, this one from where we're here at the starting low and just coming up to shoulder height, and really just shoulder height. When we do this fast, we often go a little higher, but here just go right to the top of the shoulders, right to the top of the shoulders. Hold everything else still. So you've got to put a little focus on your abdominal muscles, on the front ribs, holding still. So there's some core work here. My legs are being strong, and I'm just pivoting right around the shoulder joint, just teaching yourself to pivot around the shoulder joint without lifting the top of the shoulders, without neck strain, without lifting the ribs every time. Okay, so there I am lifting the ribs to get mobility. A lot of us use our rib cage instead of our shoulders for mobility. Okay, and then the final one is, if possible, right, we're going to start, right, my palms are now facing each other, fingertips up to the sky. I'm hugging the block, elbows wide. The key here is that my shoulders are back. So I'm not letting my shoulders come forward. I'm taking the shoulders back and I'm hugging the block. So that's stage one. You might have to stay there for a while if you've had a shoulder injury. Just hugging the block, shoulders back, rib cage down, right? So I'm not arching the ribs for mobility. I'm keeping my ribs in line with my pelvis and my feet, and I'm hugging the block here. Okay, that's part one. Now, give it a good work. Then we start to raise the block, maybe only as high as the forehead, right? Elbows are wide, top of the shoulders stay down. I'm just going up to the forehead and back down. Squeezing the block. Thumbs and fingers are together. My palms are facing each other. Maybe I go a little higher, right? So it's just forehead height and then maybe eventually higher. It's quite challenging for most people to have their elbows straight and their arms overhead and the top of the shoulders down. Most people, the shoulders come up. So let's just keep working just to the forehead and maybe a little higher, pushing the block, shoulder blades back, top of the shoulders down. Okay, so that is everything we've done so far is a great shoulder warm up and rehab session, like 5 minutes right there. And if you did that every day, your shoulders will start to feel better, I promise. Okay, now, we were just pushing the block in. Now let's try pulling out. So we've got our belt, and I'm holding the belt loop end so it doesn't hit me or anybody else or my furniture. And I'm just holding it just wide. It's slightly wider than my torso now. So if I bring my hands down to my thighs, my feet are hip distance apart, my hands are on the outside of my thighs. So this gives you an idea so that as I pull the strap, my shoulder blades go together. If I'm too close here, it's actually going to pull my shoulder blades apart. So I need to take my hands wider so that when I pull the strap, my shoulder blades actually, in a seesaw action, go together. Okay, so now we're doing the same things that we did with the block. Back and forth from hip to shoulder height. Notice I'm just going to the shoulders, no higher. From thighs, strap touches the thighs, just to the shoulders, pulling that strap apart. This one can be a little precarious because my palms are facing down. That means my upper arms are internally rotating a little bit. So if that is bugging your shoulder, one, that's good information that you have some rotator cuff issues, but two, turn your palm, keep holding the strap, turn your palms to each other and still pull. Okay, and that gives you a little external rotation. You may need to slide your hands slightly wider to do that, right? Like, because I just ate up some strap by turning my palms to each other. Okay, but now I've got my palms facing each other. I'm pulling the strap. This should be making your upper arms tired, but not like there's no pain. Right? I'm feeling fatigue in the deltoids maybe, but no pain. Okay, so back and forth. Then straight out from the face, elbows wide, and I'm going to bring the elbows in. Now my palms have to face down. Okay, and I'm pulling into my chest. Straight out, pull in. I'm pulling that strap apart strong as I go. And I'm holding everything. I'm not letting my rib cage take over for mobility. Just straight out, back in. Straight out, back in. Elbows are staying shoulder height. Shoulders are staying shoulder height. So my shoulders are not lifting toward my ears. Okay, one more. And rest. All right, and the last one is the one where we start to go up toward the forehead. So my hands are still about as wide as my outer thighs. Coming up, elbows, we're gonna do straight arms here. Pull the strap apart and just go to forehead height and back down. So it's a very little window, shoulder height to forehead height, pulling that strap apart. Again, if this is bugging your arms, you can, or your shoulders, I should say, turn your palms in toward each other. I'm still pulling the strap apart and I'm just going up. My ribs are holding still and keep going. It may take a little time for you to build up to this full set of reps. It's okay if you take some breaks, shake it out. It's actually preferable. We don't really want to overtire things and then start getting sloppy and bending the elbows. And it's like, I've seen this in like rehab clinics before. The PT's having the person do their reps is not effective. Okay, so take a break until you can do it properly. And we're working on different things at different times in rehab clinics. So I didn't mean that really as a insult. It's just that particular thing is not working on shoulders. Sometimes people just have to move, okay? And any movement is good movement. All right, so that's our strap work for the moment. Keep your strap nearby. And we're gonna come down onto the mat. Okay, so I will say before we start the mat portion, the thing that is going to help your shoulders the most is getting this stuff strong. So you stop using your shoulder muscles inappropriately and you can start using these muscles appropriately to do that work. And then the shoulders are free to do their thing. Yay. Okay, so make your way down to the floor however you can and sitting low. Balance, we're going to go into the abdominal series from Pilates. So stretching your arms long, roll it back, stretch your legs out long, and pump your arms. Now, of course, you could just rest your hands, right? And then this is a great workout for the abdominals. I'm just holding on here. I'm not pumping my arms at all. I'm just resting the shoulders back as I curl in and up for my abdominals. This is good work. So I'm teaching myself to hold all this while I relax, totally relax my neck and shoulders, right? If you have one injured arm, I don't recommend just pumping with one arm. So I would recommend resting both of them and figuring out how to use your abdominals. Let's say your legs could be up here. That also works. I'm pressing my low back into the mat. I'm rounding my upper back. Okay, I can work anywhere along here. And I'm breathing. So it's an inhale and exhale. Let's do one more full breath. Go inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come all the way down. Okay, now the roll up. That requires you to take your arms overhead, which again, we've talked about. Straight arms in line with the ears overhead is quite tricky for some people. So instead of doing that, just start here. You could even start with robot arms, elbows down to the floor, fingertips up to the sky. Curl your head and chest up. You're stuck because you don't have the momentum of your arms. Bend your knees. Use your knees, keep your chest close to your thighs. Don't use your shoulders at all. Rock up. So that's the way to not use your shoulders in the roll up. And then round over. Okay, inhale, roll it back. Notice I'm leaving my arms behind. I'm going to land with robot arms, draw my knees in, and come all the way down. Okay, back up. My knees close to my chest. Keep my chest close to my knees. Rock up and round over. So I'm teaching myself purposefully how to keep the shoulders back and relaxed and use my abdominals instead. I got to bend my knees, use my abdominals, slow it down, control, and back. And one more like that. Roll up, chest to thighs. Try and imagine you're going to keep your chest on your thighs. Imagine that. They're going to get away from you, and round over. Okay, notice I did not slump my shoulders. I'm keeping my shoulders back as if I'm pinning my elbows to the sides of my waist the whole time, rolling back. I could leave my legs behind if I have enough abdominal strength. I can control myself without bending my knees on the way back. Okay, so that's a great stage 1 post-shoulder surgery, happy shoulder exercise. If you want to take it a little bit further, you're taking your arms straight up to the sky. This is easier than arms overhead. Okay, however, shoulder blades down to the floor, right? And upper back down to the floor. Now, as I go to curl up, head and chest come up, I can't use my shoulders to get me up there. So I've got to leave my shoulders behind, start to use my abs. If I'm tempted to use my shoulders and my abdominals are not there, that's when I have to bend my knees and use my knees as momentum, not my shoulders. Okay, so again, really good breaking habits here. So shoulders back and roll it back. Okay, I could do it with my legs straight, curl up, but only if I'm keeping my shoulder blades back, my shoulders down the whole time. If you can get to that point, you're doing great on your path to rehabilitating your shoulders, not just during this class, but during your whole day, it will get better. Okay? Now, Let's do a little leg stretch. We have our strap, and we'll take our foot, right behind the toes. Again, I can bend, with I have a nice long belt, I can bend my elbows and rest them down on the floor, so I barely have to use my shoulders. Or usually someone has only injured one shoulder, so I could use the uninjured arm to hold on, okay? And we're gonna reach through that heel and then point the toes. And everything is connected. And there are all kinds of interesting esoteric anatomy charts that will show you how various parts of your lower body control your shoulders, and they're connected through fascia and energetic channels, and it's all very cool. You don't have to really understand it or know about it, but my understanding at a practical level is that the healthier the overall system is, it's going to bring along any injured part with it. It's going to help it. So we're just doing point and flex through that foot, through that ankle, and last point. And then turn your toes out to the right, cross your leg over to the left, hold on to that strap. So my foot is only as wide as my left shoulder, my right hip is down on the mat, upper back is on the mat. Use your abdominal muscles, hold them back there. And then we'll just do a little tick-tock left to right, just to prove the point that, like the arms, the legs are also independent in a sense that I can hold my pelvis still and have the leg move back and forth. Okay, and then bring that leg down. And now this is a great place to think about your shoulders. Palms are face down. Okay, shoulders are back on the mat. And I'm going to hold them still with my rib cage and pull that leg in toward you, doing leg circles. But my shoulders, neck, upper ribs are not moving. They're pushing into the mat. I'm not scrunching them up. I'm not getting weirdly tense with them. I'm just grounding them, and then reverse to your right for kick. 2, 3, 4, just nice easy kicks of that leg, and 5, and place the leg down. Okay, second side. So teaching yourself when you're trying to hold steady with the abdominals to do that instead of holding steady with the shoulders. The shoulders hold still because all of this stuff is holding. Okay, so again, you could hold with just the happy arm, the one that's happy to hold, and let the other one, the one that's bothering you, could rest. Okay, and then we point the toes and flex. I will admit that I haven't had a serious shoulder injury in quite a while. I did dislocate my shoulder maybe 2 years ago, reach through your heel, and it persisted for about 8 months because being, the movement teacher I am, I did not attend to it. I was too busy attending to other people's shoulders. And it finally caught up with me about 8 months later, and I kind of helped it out. And anyway, I've never had shoulder surgery or anything like that. I've had to do little minor rehabilitations of my own shoulders. Mostly my shoulders bug me from doing too much manual labor. Good, and then rest. Like repetitive movements, like working on the house. Oh, sorry, let's keep the strap up there. We're gonna cross over to the right side, to the right shoulder, right hip. And softening the upper back. So for me, the easiest way to hurt my shoulder is to do repetitive things a little too long. Good, so that my core starts to get tired, my legs are tired, and I'm no longer using them the way I should be, and I start to overuse my shoulder. So for example, tiling the shower until 11 o'clock at night. That's a great way to get your shoulder flared up. Raking the lawn and trying to do it all in one day, right? It would be far better to rake the lawn for half an hour a day for 5 days or however long it takes. Okay, now strap to the side, and we're gonna do our leg circles, focusing on holding with the abdominal muscles, not the upper back. Here we go. Pull the leg in, across, and kick it up. My upper back is holding still because my abdominals are keeping the movement from my leg from moving up to my chest, right? My abdominals are like the stop gate, and across. We'll do one more this direction, and then kick it up and reverse off to your left for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So leg comes down, and we're gonna roll ourselves up. Remember, you can bend your elbows here. This will remind you to keep your shoulders back, Curl your head and chest up. If you have to bend your knees, otherwise coming up. And we're going to come on to hands and knees. So remember that your biggest friend with shoulder rehab is taking small bites. Trying not to, best example, rake the lawn for 5 hours. Whatever repetitive work thing you have in your life, break it down to much smaller bites, 5 minutes, and then as needed throughout the day. That way you're going to be more likely to use your core while that's engaging and less likely to depend on your shoulders. Okay, so weight bearing is really useful rehabilitation if you're at this point. This is weight bearing. I've got straight elbows, my fingers are pointing straight forward, and I'm going to sink my upper back and then lift my upper back. So I'm just working on that mobility in the shoulder, right? So this, if you've had significant shoulder surgery, we're talking 6 weeks out. Like, don't do this right away. Give yourself some time. If you have a minor rotator cuff tweak, give it a try. It should be okay. The hands are right underneath my shoulders, and I'm just going straight up, straight down. Notice how I'm not doing, my low back is not moving. That would be a different action. Okay, that's demonstrating a different thing. Or my tailbone is not moving. Okay, so it's just the shoulder blades. My elbows are not bending. So check that. Watch your own elbows. They're not bending. Okay, then come on to your forearms. And elbows are just shoulder distance apart. Spread your fingers. Okay, so this is good weight bearing for the shoulders. Shoulder distance apart, not any wider. Palms are flat, forearms are parallel, and I'm just holding this position. This is it. I'm using my abdominals a little bit, but not much else is going on. It's just a position of weight bearing in the shoulders. I'm not sinking the upper back, and I'm not lifting the upper back. I'm just trying to find neutral. Shoulders right in the center of the rib cage. That's it. Okay, that's that whole exercise right there. And come up. Okay, and now we're going to come onto our stomach and do a little exercise this way where the arms are out in a T position. Okay, if you have a little cloth you want to put under your forehead, you can, but your forehead is down to the ground. And I'm not going to worry about my legs too much, but I don't want them really wide. So I would like them closer together so I can have some sense of midline, hugging the inner thighs toward each other, have a little more access to my tailbone when my legs are closer, and therefore a little more access to my pelvic floor. So I don't have to have my legs touching, but they're tamed, okay? They're not flying away, and that just gives me more control. Forehead down. Okay, right arm reaches out, right arm draws in, right arm slides out, right arm slides in. Okay, that's all I'm doing, sliding that arm in and out, straight in, straight out. So the elbow is staying straight, and I'm just drawing the shoulder blade on the back and off the back, on the back, off the back. That's simple. Okay, now take your hand down by your waist. This is my right hand. I'm going to take my left arm and just bend it so my left side is resting. Okay, right hand down by the waist, slides up to shoulder, back down. Elbow is straight. So I'm sliding on the floor to start. The reason for that is with my hand on the floor, my shoulder is lifting away from the floor. Next up, we're going to pick the hand up, but you have to keep your shoulder still that same distance away from the floor. Okay, so now shoulder height with that hand, lift the hand up, but don't let the shoulder drop. And then hand back down. Okay, so watching the shoulder in your peripheral vision, but without turning your head. Okay, so arm up, shoulder stays there, hand down. Hold your shoulder, just pat the floor, hand to shoulder height, and back down. Lifting up and down. Your shoulder is not moving in terms of, it's not trying to lift too far back and forth from the floor. Okay, there is a little movement, but we're not thinking of the shoulder moving. We're moving from the hand. Okay, now keep it up there and take the hand back to the waist and back to the shoulder. So now we're floating it, but I'm keeping the shoulder lifted away from the floor. Head of the arm bone, where the arm meets the rib cage, is not sinking. I've got a little lift right there, as if I have a tennis ball that I'm lifted up over. There's that much height as my hand glides from shoulder to hip to shoulder to hip. I'm just windshield wiping back and forth. Elbow is straight. And then back, leave it at the hip and place your hand down by your hip. And then we'll bend that hand in and bring the right hand close to the shoulder, resting that side. So now it's time for the left arm. I'm going to turn around so that in case you're watching, you can see, but I'll try to do a good job of talking through because obviously you shouldn't be watching your face down on your mat. So I've got my right hand close to my shoulder, elbow is resting on the mat, left arm out at a right angle. And the first thing I'm doing is just sliding the arm out, extending the shoulder blade off the ribs and bringing it back on. And off and back on. And off and back on. And I'm trying to keep my left shoulder lifted up away from the floor. So it's not scrunching down. Draw it in and reach back. Draw it in and reach. And one more time. Elbow is straight and reach. And now, bringing it down toward the waistline, shoulders up, and back up to shoulder height. So we're just windshield wiping, but the hand is on the floor for this first set. Shoulder blade on the back, using your abdominal muscles. Help them hold your rib cage. So the only thing moving is the hand. Back and forth, little windshield wipers. Use your core muscles there. Everything holding still, shoulders lifting away from the floor. Now come back to shoulder height and lift the hand and pat the floor. And lift the hand and pat the floor. Okay, so elbow stays straight, shoulder away from the floor as we lift and lower. Working to straighten through that elbow. That is a tough thing for a lot of people with a shoulder injury. You have not been straightening your elbow for a long time. Work to straighten your elbow. There's important muscles there. They'll translate into the shoulder blade. And one more time, lift and pat the floor. Now lift, stay there, and take it back to the hip and then back to shoulder height. So now we're windshield wiping with the hand floating in the air, just about the height of your torso. Your shoulder is still lifted away from the floor, still using your core muscles as best you can. Elbow is still straight. You can relax your fingers. You don't have to have a hyper engaged hand, but you do have to straighten your elbow. And we're windshield wiping down to the hip, back to the shoulder. One more time, down to the hip, back to the shoulder. Rest your hand, draw it in. Okay, so now take your strap. This is going to be a little bit more advanced shoulder rehab, okay? The strap comes behind us. So a lot of people after shoulder surgery can't reach behind them. So it depends on what you've done. Some people can, some people can't. But throw the strap over to your other hand. Hold on to one end. Hands are down by your sides. Palms are now face up to the sky, holding the strap. Forehead is down. So notice how this internal rotation of the shoulders has sent your shoulders forward toward the mat. Lift your shoulders away from the mat. Lift your hands off the floor, and if you can, straight elbows, pull. So now I've turned my palms face each other, so there's a little more external rotation of the upper arms. Keep your shoulders lifted. If you can, pulling that strap apart, lift off the back of the thighs and back down. Off the back of the thighs and back down. I'm not going very high. I'm lifting my strap like in my mind's eye, it's lifting about an inch. Maybe it's a little higher, but not much. I'm just barely lifting and back down. I'm really overextending through the elbows because my arms are externally rotated, and that's okay. Again, most people who have shoulder injuries need to open up their elbow joints a little bit. So a little stretch to the elbows is not a bad thing. Keep lifting the shoulders up away from the floor. Lift the strap up and back down. Just an inch and back down. And one more time, lift and back down. And then rest your hands, rest your shoulders, and we'll let go of the strap and sit back on our heels. Okay. So I'm going to point out that all of the exercises we did in the very beginning with the block, one can also do sitting. You could be sitting in a chair, right? All the ones we did with the block and the strap in the beginning. So you could be sitting in a chair, or you could be sitting like this in a comfortable position on the floor. I just want to make that point. If you have other things going on with your body, you can still work on your shoulders. Okay, so we still have the abdominal series to go. Last thing here for getting the core nice and strong and letting the shoulders relax. So we're gonna do a modified abdominal series for the shoulders. It's not modified for the abdominal muscles. Those are gonna get a full workout. So just fair warning there. All right, so we're gonna balance here. I'm holding loosely. My shoulders are let go. Take your hands over to your right side. Notice it's very little movement there. My hands are still below my shoulders. Lean it back. Left leg is long, so I can still really relax here. I don't have to hold very much and switch. So I kind of have robot arms. My elbows are close to my waist, and my hands, my forearms are moving, but not much else. So this is pretty easy on the shoulders. I'm doing the same single leg stretch exercise that we always do, curled with the head and chest up, and I'm just lightly moving the hands. And again, it's teaching me to not overdo it with my shoulders. My shoulders are relaxed. And in fact, I could just ever so slightly, I could draw the tip of the shoulder blades down toward the floor to get a little action back there. It's good therapy for the back of the shoulder blades, and rest, okay? So this position is gonna be our go-to of the elbows bent, kind of like a little robot, palms, fingertips to the sky. Curl your head and chest up. So here, I can just barely touch my shins, that's okay, and reach long, legs, and then hug back in. So look, I'm just doing a little robot arms and hug back in. I'm resting the shoulders back, and then I'm still resting them as I hug in. I'm resting them back, and I'm still resting them. Look at that, see? Reach long and hug it in. Heels are together as I reach and hug it in. And one more time, reach long and hug it in and rest. Okay? Scissors, hold on to the back of your legs. So, but my elbows are still down on the floor. Curl my head and chest up, legs up to the sky. Look, my elbows are down on the floor, and I'm gonna take that, now my elbow's a little bit off. I'm gonna take that left leg and switch. So just barely moving the arms, because I'm really trying to rest my shoulders to teach myself to use my abdominals instead. Eventually, we would add back in some important shoulder muscles, right? But only once you've figured out how to stop using them and using them in inappropriate ways. And then we go back to using them and in appropriate, strengthening, healthy ways. And reach. So here's my scissors with a nice relaxed upper back, curling my head and chest up, and rest. Okay? Double leg lift. I like to do this with the arms straight. So curl your head and chest up, reach your arms long, palms are face down, legs up to the sky. And then I'm reaching. I could have my hands on the floor, but I think this is for most people pretty accessible. Heels are together, lower the legs, and back up. And we go lower, 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 curl the head and chest up, and back up. You could always put a block behind your head, okay? So lower, 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 but you can't go that far that way because you got to keep your ribs down and back up. So for me, I'm curled up higher without the block. I can take my legs lower and still have my low back down. Okay, so just checking that. Last one, reach, 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 and back up and rest. Okay, crisscross. So we're not going to put the hands behind the head because that causes all kinds of issues of lifting the shoulders, etc. We're going to rest the elbows, curl our head and chest up, and just like we did with single leg stretch, but this time we're going to cross over. Ideally, I'm going to get both hands on that side of the knee. So I'm still like doing a robot thing, but I'm adding more of a twist. So I've got both hands as if I was holding something. I guess I could hold a block, but I have an imaginary block, and I could just go side to side with my block or imaginary block. That's all we're really doing. Just going side to side, both hands on one side of the thigh to the other side, crossing, curling my head and chest up, reaching up there, curling up, and switch and get your breath. So it's an inhale, inhale, exhale, exhale, and rest. Okay, so that's the abdominal series with low shoulder stress. Rock yourself up, but not using your arms, right? Because you arm-centric people are going to want to grab on and pull yourself up. That's just your habit, but you're not going to do that. You're trying to build new habits. So you're going to rock yourself up, no arms. Okay, and we're going to do one more little series here, and that is back on your stomach. Okay, so one forearm comes in front like so. It's across my mat, palm face down. The other arm is back behind me with my palm face to the sky. So that's externally rotated. And, no, sorry, we'll ignore that. Okay, forehead down, shoulders lifted. Okay, now I'm going to lift both arms off the mat at the same time. They lift and they lower, and they lift and they lower. And as they do that, I'm going to really engage my abdominals. So this is not so tricky yet, right? Just lift and lower. Now in this next one, lift and start to bring your hands toward each other and back to their base and lower. Lift, bring your hands as if you were going to touch, but don't strain because we're lifting at the same time, and back and lower. Like your hands are not going to touch, okay? Just a spoiler alert there. Lift your hands off the mat. Try to bring your hands toward each other just a little bit, and then back to their home base and lower. One more time. Lift. Try to glide as if they're gliding across a tabletop and back and lower. And then we'll switch sides, bringing that left forearm across, right hand down by your right side, palm face up, forehead is down, shoulders are still lifted away from the mat. Okay, first part, we're just lifting both arms just like they are, and lower, and lift, and lower. This is a little cross crawl patterning, lift and lower, kind of brain reworking. It should be totally pain-free. And like I said, not all of these exercises are going to be pain-free depending on what your shoulder issue is. So if this one hurts, well, you don't get to do it yet. And lift and lower. And one more time, we're going to lift and stay there, and then start to glide the hands toward each other and back. Now, as I do that, I don't get to drop my shoulders, particularly the right shoulder, the hand that's down by my waistline. I'm not dropping that shoulder at all. So I can only take my right hand up over my hips and my back as far as I can with still lifting that shoulder up. One more time, gliding toward each other and back. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We lowered on the other one, didn't we? Lower and then lift and glide and back to home base and lower and lift. Just that one more time and glide in and back to home base and lower. Okay, and then draw both hands in by your sides, palms by your shoulders, and we'll sit back again. Okay, and one more time, we're going to do that weight bearing, adding on a little bit. So here's the standard weight bearing. Elbows are straight. The crease of my elbow, the inside of my elbow is facing forward. So it's not turned in. It's facing forward a little bit. From there, I can add on by walking my knees back and then keeping my hips in line with my knees and shoulders. I should bringing my hips in line, just like that. Okay, so there we go. That's adding on to the weight bearing. And then I'm just I would just work on that for 30 seconds and see if things get painful, or ideally they're totally pain-free. Okay, so we're not really wanting to weight bear with any pain in the shoulders. That is not therapeutic, but pain-free weight bearing is very therapeutic. You might experiment with, are you lifting your upper back? Are you over sinking your abs and upper back? Can you hold them right in the middle? So the shoulder joints are right in the middle of the rib cage, elbows are straight. I'm using a little bit of abdominal muscle, a little bit of butt muscle to help me out there, and I'm just working on that action. Unfortunately, unlike true plank, where our knees are off the ground, this variation is a little bit hard on the wrists just because of the angle of the wrists underneath the shoulders. But hopefully that trade-off is worth it. Okay, good. And then sitting back. So just 30 seconds, we're working up to that. Alrighty. And that, my friends, is our shoulder workout for the day. So you got some good shoulder rehabilitation exercises, some core exercises to help back up the shoulders, and you could easily do that 3 days a week if you're trying to rehab your shoulders. But go by pain. You don't want to increase pain. Since we're at the end of class, you could disappear now, but I'm going to give you just a little reminder that this space up at here in the shoulder blade, there's not a lot of space for some of those muscles to come through. The supraspinatus, one of your rotator cuff muscles, it does not like to get inflamed. So if you work too hard, if you lift too much weights, or you do too many reps, or you rake your lawn for 5 hours instead of 5 minutes, you're going to get inflammation in that shoulder joint. It's going to push on the attachment of the muscles there, and that's going to weaken your shoulder. So you're not doing yourself any favors at all by getting sore in the shoulder joint proper. That is not growth. That is not strengthening. That is, in most cases, actually weakening, literally weakening the attachment of the muscle. So be really conscientious about that. Go slow. Only do what you can do pain-free. A little bit every day is way better, and you'll be feeling better. Yay. Okay. Have a good day.